Ken DiCairano joins the show this week. Ken is a financial service executive and certified financial planner with Barnum Financial Group, who focuses on wealth planning, investment management, and financial literacy. There's a world of knowledge in this episode. Let's go. I'm Paul Blanco, and this is Small Steps, Big Wins. Ken DiCairano, welcome to Small Steps, Big Wins. I'm so glad you made the drive down to Shelton or the drive up, whatever it is. And 2 days in a row, I saw you yesterday here with one of your great clients. So it's really great to have you on the show today.
Oh, thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here. And
I'm excited. Let's dig in right now.
Sure.
I think that when I interview most of the advisors that are on the show, many of them started out right out of school, or they started out of school and then they came over as an experienced producer. But, you were a little different. You spent 10 years, with a major firm as a CPA.
Correct.
And, you had a wife and a family, and you decided at some point 10 years in to make a major career change and go become a financial advisor at Ameriprise. What happened? Why'd you do that? It's an interesting, I'd love you to share with everybody.
Yeah, sure. No, if I think back, I was probably near the beginning of when financial planning, financial advising came out as a profession. So being a CPA, I always wanted to start my own practice.
Okay.
But I was working at, first of all, the CPA firm, KPMG, and then I was working in corporate accounting. And I kept hearing more and more about being a financial advisor, a financial planner. And I said, maybe instead of starting a CPA practice, look into starting, going into financial planning.
Wow.
So actually, Paulette, my wife, is one of the ones who said, yeah, why don't you, try that? It sounds
good for Paulette. Thank God she did that. I love Paulette. And now I even love her more that she got you into this business.
Yes. Actually, my father was the one who got me into being a CPA first. And then she's the one who said about financial planning. So,
and how did you get started? You go to Ameriprise, and was it hard to make that career change? You're in your mid 30s.
Yes, it was very hard. My kids I think my son was 4 and my daughter was 1.
Wow.
And it was a big step to do that, to move from having a salary, being paid, and then moving to where you really were just relying on whatever business you did. Because there was a beginning salary maybe for a few months or something like that. But Paulette was working, so she carried us during that time. I did get a package when I left KPMG, is where I came from, but it was a package that went into your 401k.
Got it. So, but at least you had some
money,
but you
didn't use it.
But you were really, but listen, I think in your mind, if I could think back, you're probably weighing it and saying, all right, I'll go be a CPA. I got to go set up an office and everything.
Right.
And here I'm going into an office. So it's probably from a parallel. There's not as much cost to be a financial advisor.
Correct.
And I said it to the people the other day. If I was coming an advisor today, it cost me $5,000 when I started. Get some suits. You don't even need suits today you did in the old days, maybe sport coats. And I needed a car then. Mm-hmm. And I bought a car that had 100,000 miles on it, $2,800. So that $5,000 was chewed up between the car and the suits.
Right.
Today, I wouldn't even need the car with the Zoom. I could take the bus wherever I want to get to the office. But you really went in as a true entrepreneur.
Yes. Yeah. So it was no monetary cost, but there was a time cost.
Yes.
So at Ameriprise, the training started off every day, Monday through Thursday till 7 p.m.
Wow.
9 to 7, Fridays 9 to 5, and then Saturday mornings. And we did a lot of dialing back then, calling people and just building a practice really from scratch.
It's amazing. And I was fortunate enough I want to say it was around 2006 that, you were at Ameriprise and you were building a nice business, but you hit what I'll call the ceiling of complexity, where you're like, all right, there's got to be more. Mm-hmm. And I remember meeting with you and challenging you and saying, hey, Ken, at this stage of your career, you have all the skills. Do you want to grow and get to the next level? And you're like, come on, Paul, I want to grow. And was that a turning point though, when you decided to leave Ameriprise and try something, a different mousetrap, for a better word?
Yes, that was a big turning point. And I would say my main turning point was really or at least two individuals I attribute to that turning point. One is meeting you.
Oh, well, thank you.
And you giving me the guidance and showing me, what I could attain, and also giving the backup support of Barnum. Because when I moved over to MetLife, I was at a firm where didn't have much support. You came in, did a presentation, and showed we have this marketing group, we have financial planning group, operations group, and it was impressive.
Thank you.
So when I look back, that was a big turning point.
Yep.
The other person responsible for that same turning point around the same time was Paulette joining my practice. So she joined just when I started at MetLife,
Yep. Met
you, and she gave really the support for my practice of having somebody there that was on my side. I knew she was going to
Yep.
do whatever we needed to get the practice up and running, even to a higher level.
Yeah, which is amazing. And Paulette had a nice career on her own. And then
Yes.
she took that leap of faith. And it's kind of interesting because I went through the same thing with Mindy. Mindy said, I'll never come in the business. Then
Right.
she came in and she's been the biggest asset to me and to Barnum. So I could see where you're going with that. So, we meet. And it's funny, I remember that meeting and I was presenting to a group of about 12 advisors.
Yes.
And I really only had two people. One was a staff person and the other one was you.
Right, Bridget.
Yeah. And I had about an hour. And I said, all right, in this 1 hour, I got to get Ken to understand that we're not the same as another firm. And to your credit, you were open-minded. And, we met then and we hit it off after that meeting. And the rest really is history. But when I look today at your practice, and I want to go through some things,
Sure.
You did, as I remember, you did such a good job with the clients you had. And you had a great process and review. And I remember back then where a lot of clients didn't go to the office that much in those days, but you had it pretty set up where your clients were pretty local. It was almost like a CPA practice where they were coming in and seeing you. And then we spent a bunch of time on like, how do we get you to see more people, right? And when it's all said and done, you could be the greatest planner, but if you're not in front of people that need our products, it's hard to be successful. And we put you in Plan Smart.
Right.
And I remember coming to you and saying, hey, how would you like to teach at Fortune 500 companies? And then you meet with the people. And I think that was just a natural for you. So let's talk about like, how were you feeling when that happened? And all of a sudden, you go from calling card leads at Ameriprise to now speaking and teaching people. And how did that help your practice?
Yes, that was a big factor in helping it grow quickly.
Yeah.
Like you said, getting in front of people is really what we want to do. And now it could be on Zoom, right? So it's easier. But that just opened it up to a lot more people to see and to help.
Yeah.
Compared to calling. When I first started out, I was calling out of the phone book. So
it's amazing.
Meeting people in a seminar setting where we can answer specific questions of theirs, they got to know us a little bit better. So the follow-up from those seminars were really good meetings.
Yeah.
And that was really helped really grow the practice.
Yeah. And when I fast forward 18 years later, it seems like that 2 or 3 of those companies you're still pretty active in.
Correct.
What's happened, and it's funny, when I see you sometimes, I say, Ken, how's things go? And you say, well, I got a lot of people retiring this year.
Yes.
And I think it's very hard for people in the industry or even in some of the firms that we talk to understand that, because the way I see it is you're in there paying your dues, you're teaching, the 4-part program, and then you're teaching the lunch and learns, and you're meeting people that might not have a ton of wealth outside of their 401k and whatever their retirement package is, but they get to know you and you put the time in with them early. And then 3-5 years later, the fruits of your labor come true. Is that kind of what happens?
Yeah, exactly. So I've been keeping a list since I've started doing these seminars, and now they're webinars, of people that I met with.
Yep.
Helped them out in the beginning, showed them some financial planning aspects of what they could do. And then also helping them review that biggest asset that they have, which is the 401k most of the time.
Yeah.
So just keeping them on a list and then following up with them periodically.
That's, I think, the key thing, correct?
Yes.
And what is that call like? Are you just calling and saying, hey, it's Ken, just wanted to check in?
So one of the things I learned early on, just to go back from the call, is when I'm on a meeting with a client, I set up the next meeting. So
which is great. Some people don't realize that.
Right. And so I even did that with prospects. So these people that I met and developed a relationship with, we would meet and then I would set up 6 month or 1 year out. Let's review your 401k again. Let's see how it's doing. Let's see if they added any new funds to that mix. And then I'll tell you which ones I like and you could use those for your choices. So keeping in touch with them, that's what those calls became.
Well, let's unbundle that because you just taught me something that I love what I just heard. So let me play it back to you. So you do a seminar, 30 people come.
Right.
There's 5 of them that, are not becoming clients today.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a retirement date within the next 5 years, let's say. And what you do is you put the time in with them upfront. And then every 6 months, you just use their 401k management as a checkpoint for you to continue to make sure they don't forget you till that number drops.
Correct. Exactly.
It's amazing. And I'm sure you have a segmentation model that you follow to do that. And do they all get on that call because they all want your advice?
Yes. Yeah. Every one of them. If since we're scheduling it in advance, for some reason, if something comes up 6 months down the road, they need to change it. They change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they stick to those meetings. Yes.
Yeah, which is amazing. And I think, listen, Ken, you did. I was only an advisor for 2.5 years, but I remember when I'd go there, they taught me that if you didn't get the sale and make the close, then get the next meeting. And that's a win.
Yes.
And so you're doing that and you might meet with that client 8 times over a 3-4 year period, but now you've earned the right to the retirement versus you're hoping they remember you.
Right. Exactly.
Wow. Unbelievable. And then what happens on the follow-up? Like you get all these people in, what's your process on that? Like you have 30 other people, you just calling them and emailing them and booking the meetings?
Yeah. So out of the seminars or webinars, they do request meetings. So we book the meetings. We initially do like a financial snapshot or a profile. And, if they need more elaborate financial planning, they'll actually engage us because they want us to do a full-blown financial plan. But the ones even with the profile or snapshot, it'll take 2 or 3 meetings to first get the data from them, then do a draft and look through what does that financial projection look like, and then come back with recommendations. And if, like I said, if it's not a person who's becoming an immediate client, I'll set up those 401k review meetings every 6 months or 1 year, depending how far retirement's out. But a lot of cases could be that they need something else. They have investments outside of the company, or we look into disability, life insurance, whatever other aspects of the financial plan they might need.
Yeah, because you're just trying to get them as a client at that point, right? So you can get the other stuff. What's really good, though, is, my dad taught me, he said all these isms that are out there, when you hear all these isms, like don't put all your eggs in one basket. He says, like, they've lasted the test of time because they're real. And I'm like, all right, Dad. And the one that you just said, by taking the time to do the snapshot / profile, which doesn't take long because you probably have it down to a science now.
Right.
There's a saying that a picture's worth 1,000 words. And I also think that the client probably feels like you've prepped way more, even though it might only be 20 or 30 minutes of your time, where most FAs I watch in the industry, if that client's coming into your office, they're showing up like right when the meeting starts, all kind of disheveled, papers everywhere, where you're coming in with like myself and my team took the time and here's what you look like now. And based on your goals and objectives, here's what we can get to.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's important, having a document to share with them, show them. They're actually initially glad just to do the budget sheet because they don't look over their expenses.
Yep.
And it opens their eyes to that. And then when they see the rest of it with a cash flow document, net worth document, it really opens their eyes. And then the projection of retirement down the road.
Yeah. And it's amazing. And I think that when they see that, you're right, it changes their mindset of what's possible,
Yes.
and how far they're behind. So, oh wow, that's pretty amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So let me ask you one other question. So you said it a few times. You said, well, I know for many years, and I say this on pretty much every episode, that the pandemic brought so much bad, but it brought so much good in our business. And you've referred to it a few times, Zoom. Not only are we able to meet with more clients and be national now because of Zoom, but your webinars now that were probably 100% face-to-face, most of them are now via Zoom. And it gives you, am I correct in that you're reaching more geography now on that?
Yes. Yeah. So it's even within the companies that we do them with, they open it up to other divisions. Even though they're not local, they're able to come on Zoom. So it does open it up to a bigger audience.
Which you were never able to do before.
Correct.
And as a presenter, have you had to do different things and mentally engage differently from doing it face-to-face to Zoom?
Yes, I think so. Because face-to-face, there's people just naturally raising their hand, asking questions. And it's easier to elicit questions when you're face-to-face. But on Zoom, a lot of times you don't see everybody.
Yeah.
So I did come up with a bunch of different questions, and some of the ones that I've gotten from the group here, corporate ed team here, that tell us some of the things to do, best practices.
Yeah.
But asking questions and having people answer those questions on chat. They don't have to unmute, but they can easy to do on a chat function and answer the questions. Then you get a feeling that, okay, there's people out there and
they're more engaged
and they're listening. Yes.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing is you have to be so much more intentional on that. The one thing that I think back to the pandemic, and many advisors that I've seen at Barnum went from seeing 15 to 20 people a week to 30 to 40, right? But that's not going to happen again. Like, we're not going to have something happen in our world that's going to double the amount of meetings. And I think, and I'm glad to hear what you're doing with Zoom, I do think that, like what you're doing with the 401k stuff, that we're going to have to, if we meet with a client face to face and we're able to draw on things or illustrate something differently, we all have to stop for a second and figure out how to do that on Zoom now, because this is not going away.
Right.
So we have to get so good at what you said, or maybe get to the point where you can get them to turn their cameras on. But we have to be so much more intentional, because that's going to get us to the next level.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Showing things on the fly really helps people understand things more. So I do that a lot with my client in the client meetings. I'm able to circle or point out on different reports what the different items are and what percentage their returns have been. You have to be more deliberate, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's an art that we have to get, because, one thing is getting the meeting, but then is maximizing it. I think that's a big opportunity. So you came in, you probably worked around 15 years for the most part, maybe even a little longer, as a solo practitioner, meaning you had a team around you of staff, but you were the only FA. And, as I look today and, the last bunch of years in your career, you've looked at this and said, I want to be part of a team. Like, how did that change your mindset, or did it change your mindset, or is it just the same, or is there more collaboration? Like, what has that benefited you?
Yeah, I think, bringing it to my attention, be it from your perspective, Barnum perspective, and also the company Mass Mutual perspective, of going down that's something that, people should look at, joining a team. It's really helped me because, like I said, I've been doing this so long now. You build up a number of clients, and not every client gets as much attention as they should. So you need additional help.
And you need that scale.
So you need the team aspect where you can have people just starting out work on clients with you.
Yeah. And I have a saying, I say that every client is an A client for someone.
Correct. Right.
And now what you're saying is now you're able to have people that are part of your ecosystem that can go see those clients and frees you up to go and bring on more and bigger ones.
Right. That's exactly right.
And you've done a really good job over the years. I remember being at your children's weddings, and I remember meeting clients that not only did the mom and dad, your peer have their stuff with you, but then you've been able to get some of the children and you've used some of the junior advisors to help with that. That's a skill that not a lot of advisors have. So what made you do that and how's that working?
It's probably even a better job of it. It is working well with the juniors.
Okay.
Because children of my clients identify with them.
Yep.
And obviously we're not all going to be around as long as we want to be, but we want to have backup for the kids doing things. So yeah, I think it's worked out well with the juniors. What made me try to do it initially is just the aspect that, clients are getting older. The money's going to go somewhere. Yep. We can help the most because we know the most about this family.
Yeah. And it's interesting because there's a stat that's kind of crazy that 90% of the money leaves when the second client dies. Mm-hmm. But if you're able to bring the children on into the practice and they see, now they might have multiple children, so the money might get split 3 ways and you only have 2. Right. So you might retain 2/3. But I think the likelihood of you retaining clients is way greater if you have that versus not.
Correct. Yes. If you have those relationships, obviously, and they're going to stick with you and the money's going to stay with us.
Yeah. So. And let's stay on the teaming thing because this is really good stuff. So when I look at your growth, you came in, you were a good producer. This was your career. You knew that. But now you're in the top 0.5% of the whole industry and, you're just getting better. And as you continue to age in the business, you're just getting better and better. And, 2 pieces. How is that happening? And what are you doing, to keep that mindset at this stage of your career? You're almost 30 years in the business. Is it just that you're having fun every day and you just love meeting with clients? Like, what's the mindset that you have when you do that? Yeah.
So having fun every day is a good way to describe it. I do enjoy what I do. I do like helping people. And when I get out of a meeting, I feel like I've helped that family or that person.
I love it.
So that's really what I think drives me to continue to do it.
Yeah, that's like your why.
Yeah, exactly. How am I able to do more of it is with the team. Yeah. Definitely having a team, even as a solo person, having an assistant right from the start really frees you up.
Yeah,
making appointments or changing appointments and things like that. So now with this team, you can process a lot more forms, applications, whatever you need.
Yeah. And you have way more staff and more scalability.
And the size of the client base is such that something's happening
all the time,
every day with 10 to 15 of those people. So whether they need to change beneficiaries or they have extra money or they need money, all that has to get processed.
Yeah.
So if you're a sole practitioner, you're doing that all yourself or you and your assistant.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have a team, you have different people designated for the different aspects of that team.
Yeah. And when you have size like that, you have more functionality. So you get people to be really good at one thing versus having to be a general practitioner on all stuff, right? When you have just that one staff person, that person has to be good at a lot of things in the beginning versus someone that else is
correct
there.
Right.
Well, it's interesting. You've been an avid runner.
Yes.
Pretty much your whole life, a bunch of marathons. And I would say that even as an advisor here, you've been a quiet competitor, meaning you're really competing with yourself, but you're always paying attention to what's around you. Has the running, has that helped you with, that thing? I know you're an avid golfer too, but I think you're a better runner than a golfer, probably.
That's right. That's true. I would agree with that. Yeah. So has that helped me? Yes. Running, especially. Running is a big stress reducer.
Great.
and anybody can run.
Yeah.
So I came from the environment when I was in corporate accounting. The firm had their own gymnasium down below. I knew I was leaving for Ameriprise where there was no salary. I wouldn't be able to join a gym. So I said, what can I do? I can run. I can go outside and run. So that's how.
Oh, that was the genesis of it.
Yeah, that's how I started off running.
Great.
And then different aspects, so meeting with friends and people, other runners, got me into doing the marathon.
Yep.
Actually, there was a show, The Biggest Loser.
Yep, I remember that.
Years ago. And they used to run 1 mile in the beginning of the show. By the end of the show, the people that were left on it ran a marathon. So
I remember that. That gave you the motivation.
That gave me the motivation that, hey, I could probably do that too. So I've done 8 marathons, all New York City. And but it's the stress reliever, just running down the street and getting your mind cleared. My wife, Paulette, always asks, what do you think about when you go out on a run? You're going to run 10 miles, today. What are you thinking about? And I told her, I said, thinking about how I'm going to get back. So, and that's what you kind of think about initially is which way you're going, but other things come into your mind. Yep. And it's an easy place to say prayers to and think about different people and give good wishes to different people.
Yeah, self-reflect. It's interesting because when I do whatever cardio I do each morning, probably 50% of the time I do it with no noise. I have no music, no podcasts, and I'm just reflecting. And some of my best thoughts come in that time, and it clears your head and does that. So it's pretty awesome. I'm glad to hear you do that and you keep doing it. And my question though is, like, they talk about when you run, especially a marathon, there's a point in the race where you probably hit the wall, no matter what kind of shape you're in. Does that help you when you get to that point and you break through because you finished them? Did that help you in business? Like being able to know that you could accomplish something?
I think that goes along with persistency. Being persistent is one of the key factors in this business. And any new people coming in, you have to be persistent at different things that you do. So yes, breaking through the wall, being persistent, get to the 26.2 miles.
Yep.
It usually happens around mile 20. So you still got 6.2 miles to go.
Which is a lot.
But yeah, so I think being persistent is what helps me get through the running barrier and the work barriers, making sure you're doing the things you have to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you're saying the word persistent, I'm thinking consistent too, because if I think about your years here, you're just super consistent with not only your results, the results of the after fact, but it's the behaviors and the habits you've created that keeps you super consistent. And then, it's interesting. I for all the listeners here, I usually say this at the end, but when you think of small steps to, for big wins, you're doing like your little 401k strategy, your little doing the financial plan, like there's very much intentionality, but there's small little things that have just added up. And what you've done is you've stacked those on top of each other. And that's how you're getting these superior results. You're having right now, and I know with the finish you'll have, you're blowing away your best year ever.
Correct.
Right?
Thank you.
Almost 30 years into the career. Obviously, the impact you're making. Is this a year that will continue because you have this momentum? Or was it like, oh, Paul, just everyone retired in the same year? I don't think it's that. I think it's you just have this unbelievable momentum and this energy that you're gaining as you continue to grow in the business.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's going to continue to grow. And I think I have to say that being on a new team now, I think it's really helping get more and more things in place where I can grow even further. So yeah, I expect to continue growing and working. And a lot of my clients ask me, how long you're going to be doing this? I show them the team picture and they say, why are you showing us that?
Yeah, because I have the backup, right?
I have the backup. That's what I tell them. I said, well, you're not going anywhere? I said, no, I'm here. And they said, well, what's your plan? And I tell them maybe 5 years I'll be here, maybe 10.
Yep.
And at some point we'll transition you to one of these people on my team and we'll make sure you're happy with that person. Otherwise, there's other members of the team.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I was doing a show a couple of days ago and we were talking about the CFP, which you have, and you've been an avid learner your whole thing. But I said, I remember when they were advertising so much in the Wall Street Journal and the Harvard Business Review, and I would send that out to the firm and say, like, if you don't get your CFP, that's like the silent objection. And when you get to a certain stage of life, age-wise, as a financial advisor, the silent objection is what you just said. What's going to happen if Ken's gone?
Right.
And they're thinking that. Many clients don't articulate it.
Yes.
So, but if you don't have the answer, so for all the people that are, 55 and older, if you don't start to have that answer to take the silent objection away, they might not say it to you, but they just leave quietly because they're stressed out. If Ken's gone, what's going to happen to me? By you showing that and being proactive, it changes the whole demeanor of the clients, and you remember Peter Facino, who was a great advisor here, and he always looked a lot younger, but I asked him one time, I said, Peter, they ask me all the time. I know, that's why I got to show them Brooke all the time. And it worked for him though. And the clients were retained. So, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Because I think that's really important. I guess as we come down the home stretch here, if you were coming into this business again, or coming to Barnum like you did, 18 years ago, what's the advice you'd give to the other advisors that are listening in, or some of the entrepreneurs? Is there any last parting words you would say to them? Make sure you think about this or do this.
I think the persistency or consistent work ethic is the most important thing, but trying to do things that will save you time. So one I mentioned earlier was when you're in an appointment, make the next appointment.
Yep.
Just like you said, if you don't get the sale, make the appointment. I love that.
Yeah.
Also treating clients like you want to be treated yourself, right? Everybody says that, but that's true.
It is 100%. That was funny because I got taught if you take care of clients' pockets, your pockets will get taken care of. Same way of saying it, but that's what they said to me when I first started. Well, listen, this is amazing, Ken. You have so much to be proud of. You have such a beautiful family. It's great having Paulette as part of the organization. And I know that was a big move for you. And now with the team that you're with, and I say all the time, the best is yet to come. And I really, truly believe that. And I talked the other day to a new hire class, and I told them, I said, you're all making a move to become a corporate athlete now. And I said, here's the crazy thing about it. If you think of an athlete, they have a preseason, they have an off season. When you become a corporate athlete, there's no preseason, there's no off season. And, we talk about the only season we really have a separation season is where you do things that no one else is willing to do. And when I look at your practice, you've been doing that and stacking those years on top of each other. So I know that, you're going to continue to break records. So thank you again for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Paul. It's been a pleasure to be here. And like I said, between you and Paulette, I don't know who was the one who was the big turning point, but definitely being at Barnum was. So.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you being here. And guys, listen, make sure you share this episode. Listen on Apple, listen on Spotify, share it with your friends, give us some good 5-star ratings, and continue to be great listeners. Thank you for all you do. And Ken, thank you again for everything. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone number 203-513-6000.